Greetings, weary travelers, come, warm yourself by the fire, and let us regale you with mighty tales, tales of adventure, tales of heroism, and of course, tales of Tamriel, brought to you by the Unofficial Elder Scrolls pages. I'm your host, Arcaneer Silvershield, back from my little hiatus, and I have Lotus with me, as well as a very special guest. Joining us tonight.
I'm here. I was going to say, I'm here, that's great. Yeah, skip me.
Joining us, as you all know, we have been sort of partnered with the Unofficial Elder Scrolls pages since episode 300, and we thought it would be a great time to have the founder of UESP, Dave, here with us to talk about everything UESP. Welcome in, Dave. How's it going?
Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Looking forward to talking with you guys.
I'm sure this will be a great insight towards like, because I mean UESP it goes hand in hand with Elder Scrolls, which is everything we talk about. So yeah, I'm looking forward.
I hope so. Yep.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is so often, like, whenever it's referred to is like, oh, where do you go to get whatever? We always joke, but it's like, well, I mean, you obviously just go to UESP for the longest time, and now that we've been working with you, it's like, well, this is inevitable that you should come chat about it, give us some of the history, because I only know bits and pieces, but it's like even the history of UESP is pretty fascinating. So it'll be good to have you be able to kind of give some of that insight that most of the time people might not even realize what brought the site to this level, because I mean, this site is one of like the OG sites just on the internet when you think about it nowadays.
Mm-hmm. So, we would normally start with game news, but as it has been with the last several weeks, there isn't much news to talk about.
Yeah, High Isle grows close, but it's not here yet.
It's been, we were talking about it just in pre-show, but this is probably the slowest, or rather calmest, build up towards an expansion or rather chapter release for Elder Scrolls Online. At least it feels that way.
Yeah, and we won't rehash it again, but one of the things we had mentioned is the fact that people are excited for the card game or super not excited for the card game. So like there's that, and if you take that out of the equation, you've got the upcoming story, but they can't talk about that because they'll spoil it. And then it's PTS, which again, that's a lot of testing and stuff like that. And we've even kind of covered some of the more, I don't know, specific ones that I personally was very interested in. But it's like, every little change to every little set, it's like, well, once it lands, we can get more into the number crunchy stuff. But prior to that, it's like, I leave that more to the build guide people.
Yeah. There is one thing that I want to mention, though. Did you see the story trailer that they released?
I did.
That's the fact that it has, those like sort of animated concept art-ish storytelling with the, almost like pages in a book.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, and I'm really glad they did that, because that's my plan. Like, my plan to tell the story in the game I'm making is exactly that, since I don't have the budget or people to do anything like 3D cinematics or anything like that. So I was like, This is a good example. I'm going to use this. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's a great story trailer. But yeah, other than that, we don't have much new or any news to talk about, which is good, because we can roll right into chatting with Dave here and sort of bombard him with some questions we have to get a look behind UESP and everything like that. So for anyone who might not know somehow, through a miracle, Dave, do you want to tell everyone what is UESP
and who you are? My name's Dave Humphrey, and I'm the founder, and I guess you call it current admin and owner of the Unofficial Elder Scrolls pages. So for those who don't know, UESP, which is what we call it for short, is 27 years old this year, if you can believe it.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, it sort of snuck up on us. I mean, we did our 25th, 2 years ago, and sort of realized it then how old we are. We're older than Google. So
Right.
just put it that way.
Yeah,
That's the best gauge. I actually think on the old Elder Scrolls podcast with Pylon, I think you had mentioned that before, and that's why I had heard that. Where it's like, oh my god, they literally older than Google. That is mind blowing.
Yeah. So we started on the web in 1995, and that's the really early web. I mean, there's not a whole lot of websites out there that are still going. Like Yahoo. Yahoo was the only one I can think of offhand, right?
Right.
But, amazing to think about it in terms of that.
Yeah,
it's been that long.
It is, and I was going to say the site itself, when you think about it, is legitimately older than a decent chunk of the player base that actually plays the games in the series, especially with like ESO type of thing. You've got probably I never Elder Scrolls tilts a little more to an older crowd type of thing of players, it seems like, but at the same time it's like 27 years is like that's
a long time.
That is mind-boggling.
So Elder Scrolls itself as the series is 28 years old, so UESP came out just like 1 year after, I guess, Elder Scrolls Arena, right?
I guess that sounds right. I mean, I'd have to look back and look at the dates and everything, but yeah.
You can't remember 28 years ago like it was yesterday.
But I mean, we started. It must have been after Arena and either just before Daggerfall or just when Daggerfall came out. I mean, so the USP, I guess, first started as the Daggerfall FAQ, frequently asked questions. So this was back in the day before the web. We had Usenet, which is basically just like thousands of forums or different forums, right? So each forum would have its own FAQ or for various things. So the Daggerfall or Arena had its FAQ, and then I started playing Arena and learned about Daggerfall being in production. And Daggerfall didn't have a FAQ, so I decided to start one, and that was popular. Obviously, people were interested in Daggerfall back then, and then at some point the web came out, and the text FAQ we transformed into a simple web page, and then we were thinking, well, what if we just don't do a Daggerfall FAQ? We do an Elder Scrolls website,
right? Like an all-encompassing.
And then the unofficial Elder Scrolls is sort of the obvious choice, or
yeah, it'd be a little hard to say the official one.
So I mean, that was the birth of the UESP.
So it's fascinating. Like, I didn't have as much experience with games like that far back because I always joke that occasionally I date myself, but it's like even at the formation of this, it was like, oh my god, I was like still really I was in like grade school during this, so it's like, oh wow, all right, I don't really remember that far back. But the simple thing that I just find funny about you mentioning that is FAQs where what I used to go to a lot, where it's like, oh, how do I do this if I'm playing a game type of thing? And it was just, you would try to match as close as you could with like a question you had, or just, you'd skim through it if you were kind of just trying to collect data. But like the idea that it was prior to being able to, as we had mentioned, like Google something or whatever. And the fact that you're mentioning that it's like, well, then we turned it into a web page. It was like, oh my God, that was like the formation of the web is basically around the formation of like Elder Scrolls, the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages. So this is a strange look into the past, where it's like how things literally started. Not even like, oh, how did your site start? It's like, well, this is how kind of anything started. Specifically, there's one about this series. So
I guess, I mean, obviously back then there wasn't this concept of content creation for something that you're a fan of or anything like that, there being no way to access the content as it is today. What was the idea behind starting like Daggerfall FAQ and then turning it into unofficial?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've always liked creating stuff, something, and at the time I was sort of in love with Arena and Daggerfall, so I just started devoting my time toward the FAQ, it was something I could do, not just to inform myself about the game, but inform the community, which would be the Usenet group at the time.
Sure.
And then being a sort of a computer tech guy when the web started, I sort of got interested in that and seeing, well, what if I could create a web page or something, or how does that work exactly? And that sort of started the sort of the transforming the text FAQ into a web page. And then from there the UESP. Of course, back then it wasn't a wiki like it is now, because the wiki word wasn't invented yet. It was just a simple web page that I edited myself. I would either play the game and get write walkthroughs, or people would email me tips or cheats or whatever, and I'd put them up on the web page myself. So it was, for a while it was just me editing HTML pages in the text editor.
So that actually, it kind of makes me have a question of, do you remember when it started to catch on enough that you felt like, okay, this is more than just something that I can kind of handle myself? Because as is, no one person could manage the UESP in its current state. It's unfathomable. So
So I mean, trying to think back. So I remember way back, I think in Daggerfall days, I was getting 300 page views a day. The problem is there's no way, back then there was no way of comparing, right. Google Analytics or all the websites we see today. They're is 300 page views a day good? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it seemed like a lot at the time. I mean, I was happy with it, but so I'm thinking about things got really busy when Morrowind came out. Because I mean, you had Daggerfall and you had Redguard and Battlespire. They were popular games, but not huge hits at the time. The more cult, the fans of the Elder Scrolls sort of thing. So once Morrowind came out,
Shadow Key, stuff like that, I probably can't imagine drove much traffic necessarily because
but yeah, Morrowind, it definitely, just the complexity of the game and the amount of information of the game and the popularity of the game, of course, it sort of increased the amount of work needed on the site. And I think it was shortly after Morrowind came out, we decided to move to a wiki-based, so a community-based editing. And that was still relatively early in the days of Wikipedia. So and that's where we got the MediaWiki, said to use the same software. It seemed like a good fit, and definitely happy we chose that.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I mean, pretty much anything you can search for, you're probably going to get at least one redirect to the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages. It's pretty uncommon, even if you're just cross-referencing something with the Imperial Library or something like that. Usually it's just overlap as opposed to anything not on the UESP itself.
Yeah, we definitely try to, our goal is to document the games as accurately as possible. So, if it's in the game, we try to get it at some point in the wiki in some form or another. So it's a never-ending progress. There's always stuff to do, either to re-edit or edit new things or add new things. Even, it's been 10 years after Skyrim.
Yeah.
We're still adding stuff. We're still adding content.
Sure. Well, as opposed to a linear game, or even not even linear, just less involved, these games are so monumental. Then having a way to document this series in a way that's comprehensive. Plus, there's all the stuff, once you get into lore and the outside writing, or even the stuff inside, there's so much more to it than just the games. So it becomes this entire entity that's just no wonder it takes so much for so long, and it keeps getting filled out because there's just stuff always happening. They're still writing more. And then sometimes you get tie-ins to things that weren't even previously there. And then you have to retroactively go back, fill in that and all of that stuff. So,
I mean, even today, as you said, Morrowind Skyrim has been out 10 years. Oblivion has been out 15, 16, something like that. And I still
16,
see,
I think.
Yeah, I still see sometimes people find these stuff, random stuff, and they obviously share it on social media, whatever. I'm like, how did I miss that after hundreds or maybe thousands of hours in this? How has it been right there and no one ever mentioned it up until this point? So it's And I'm curious, so Elder Scrolls Online, being the last game in the currently, like in the series, but being way back in time in chronological order for the timeline of the game, has that created any challenges or difficulties to maintain the knowledge base in UESP? Because they are also adding all new lore as well, but in a different point in time.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, I don't do too much actual wiki editing, or I'm not a huge lore expert, definitely compared to some of our wiki editors.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah, I think for the most part, we just document the lore, right? So if there are inconsistencies or questions or how things fit, and I'm pretty sure there are. I mean, we don't really go into or try to explain it, right? We're not creating or trying to explain the lore. We're just documenting it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
If there are inconsistencies, we might point them out on like we have a lore namespace where we basically for anything we take all from all the games or from all the content and put it into one page sort of thing per topic, and we would we just list it. This is Skyrim's lore, this is Elder Scrolls lore.
Right, and it's up to the person to kind of decipher. Yeah. We do that on on Elder Scrolls Lorecast that I also record with Robots Radio. That's a lot of what we'll do is like we'll use yours and then the Imperial Library and stuff like that. And it's like we kind of just cross-check. It's like, all right, here's the information. Now, how does this fit? What do you think this means? Like, here's our way of interpreting this, because the information's just there. It's what you glean from it is kind of what makes it yours. And, that's they've done a good job even when they need to change stuff, that they kind of, when you have such an emphasis on an unreliable narrator, the way this series does, it kind of helps give you a reasonable explanation why A doesn't always mean B in 100% of the situations.
Yeah. I know that's how we explain the differences in maps, right? I mean, look at maps from the various things. Obviously, things don't line up. And we just explained, well, it's not... Maps aren't perfect, right? People create maps.
Yep.
Maps change, especially in like a magic kingdom, right?
Right. Exactly.
Islands disappear into nowhere, and
yeah, exactly.
You just explain it that way. Yeah, there definitely been conversations like in Discord and offline about which lore is correct, or how to line things up. But we try to keep it out of the actual wiki pages itself.
Right, and that's that's the fun people can take from the information given, and just like, okay, you can do what you want with it. This is just more of like here are facts. Do with that what you please. All right, so I want to know this just because I think you might have said this before, and if it's true, if I remember correctly, I'm very curious. Just before what is your favorite game out of the series?
That's a tough question. I was thinking about that. Each game has a certain place in my heart for various reasons. Arena's first one, sure. Daggerfall, I played a lot with and did all kinds of stuff, and that was kind of like the birth of UESP. Redguard and Battlespire, like those, Oblivion, Morrowind, obviously. But if I had to choose one, I would choose actually Redguard. So
okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
that's what I thought you had mentioned.
Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely is probably one of the least liked besides Battlespire.
Yeah,
of the Elder Scrolls.
I'm really in the camp that it's a struggle to play there.
It was like after Daggerfall, like they tried their adventure and action series, right? So Redguard was their adventure.
Yep.
One and only adventure.
One and only adventure game.
But yeah, it was a neat mix of role playing and like action puzzles type thing. Attempt at sword play, and yeah, I thought it was really, really fun.
I liked so like I played Redguard way back, and the controls definitely were my biggest hang up, which is ironically, as I've been going back through the series type of thing, it's funny because like trying to account for these older systems, it's one of the things that I always balance out because they are infuriating to play when I'm on stream, and I don't look the stuff up in advance so that I try to get the experiences similar as to what you would have played like when you got the game type of thing, which definitely has some negatives, but people have said that it's entertaining while I smash my head into the wall trying to figure some of this stuff out. Like I had to learn what THAC0 was for Elder Scrolls Arena because it was like, why less armor is good? Like I don't understand. But Arena or not Arena, what do you call it? Redguard specifically. Again, even though like that's definitely I had a rough time going through that game, but there were a couple things I liked. The transition that the storytelling became like a major thing in that game, and it kind of kicked off a few staples that I don't think a lot of people even realize kind of formatted around that time, including I was going to say I think that was I'm pretty sure that's the first time that the Sistrus Islands were actually even referenced, if I remember correctly. But that aside, like it was the first time we got to see a Slode with Nagasta type of thing. The main character, because you also don't create your character, which is peculiar in that one. But I thought Silas was like a really cool main character as well. Like, so it's one of those things where a lot of the series, even when the game necessarily isn't one of the ones that I'm like, oof, this is rough to go through. I don't think there's any of them that haven't added something really cool to the series as a whole.
Yep. I think maybe another reason, think of why Redguard's my favorite, because that was really into creating like a complete walkthrough of the game. Back then, that was just after Daggerfall.
Yep.
And I was still doing the site, so I was doing like very detailed walkthroughs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every level. And at some point, I don't know, one of the devs commented that, you know, my walkthroughs were better than their you know, the premium games, ones that he published. So that sort of gave me a boost of confidence and, you know, the ego there on that. So
that's pretty good. Yes, yeah. That's a pretty good compliment. And it's funny because that one specifically, Battlespires similar as well, where those two spin-offs were actually much more linear.
Yes, yeah, very linear, yeah.
Yeah, it's point A to point B. You've got set levels and stuff like that, as opposed to, you know, the other games, even as far back as Arena. You could do so many things in Arena. I was lost during my, you know, stream playthrough. At various points, I was like, I have no idea where I'm going. Like, I'm completely lost. Whereas those, you know, it's definitely much more of a structured path type of thing to give the story.
So,
yeah, go for it, Ark.
I started my sentence and immediately forgot. I had something in mind. You go ahead. I'll remember it in a second and get it in there.
So there's another story that I really kind of wanted you to be able to give some insight and your take on how this all went down. There was a situation, you know, forgive me for anything I might not know the full story on, but a situation where the UESP was actually able to provide information back to Bethesda properly. Can you kind of explain the whole situation around that to whatever you're allowed to and stuff like that?
It actually wasn't Bethesda, it was ZeniMax Online Studios. So in the development of ESO. So that, I'm pretty sure. So, you know, we know there, you know, way back when ZOS was made, you know, no, like we didn't know what they were working on, right?
Sure.
We know it was an MMO. It was a big game, but we had no idea. And eventually, it was released. And I went to the PAX East like the year before it was released.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they had a big event there to promote it, and met the devs and everything. And they were telling me they were worried that they were using the UESP so much for like reference for lore and various things that we would see their IP addresses and figure out what they were doing. So I reassured them we don't actually you know, troll the logs looking for ZOS or Bethesda IP addresses, and even if we did, it would be our secret sort of thing. But
that's pretty funny.
I thought that was a neat thing. Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure Bethesda and ZOS has their own, you know, internal documents, but UESP is such exhaustive. You know, that's what we exist for, is to collect information or document the games. That it's easier for them to, you know, if they want to look up a certain lore thing, that's, you know, Google or search on the UESP.
I know, which is it's so funny that you end up being the cross-reference chart for the company doing the thing.
So I thought that was neat.
And it's like safe to assume when they first started making Elder Scrolls games, they didn't expect it to become what it is today.
No.
And it's what I feel is they might, at least up until maybe Morrowind, they might not have had the proper documentation process of what they are doing enough to have that internal like documentation as good as UESP. So even if they have their internal like storage or whatever, I assume it's not as good as UESP, at least in the previous parts of the series. So yeah. And you did mention, like, they mentioned way back in the day that your walkthroughs were like better than what they published themselves.
Yes.
At one point, did they started like recognizing what you are doing, whether it be Daggerfall FAQ or like?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. You know, so at one point the UESP was hosted by Bethesda. You know, we were on their web servers, so they definitely knew about us.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to look back when that was. I think that was probably between Daggerfall and Morrowind.
I was going to say, this is another thing I was curious on.
Yeah.
So, like, could you elaborate on that a little bit as to what the weird situation is with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, trying to think hosting way back when we were just doing like cheap, $5 a month like VPS hosting, and like trying to think that my first host I was paying for, either something was wrong with it or went down. So someone donated their web server, and I was on there for a bit, and then for some reason that went down, and I think Bethesda offered to host it. And again, I could be forgetting the details, but that was the rough series of events.
That's pretty cool.
That's still that's still pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen these days, but again, this is really early web, where web server is just a computer in someone's office, basically, right?
Right.
It's not a huge web data center or anything. So yeah, I don't think we were on Bethesda very long, but a couple months
briefly.
Or something until.
Yeah, well, to that point too, which is interesting because like you said, that's not something that would happen nowadays just for legality reasons. It seems like that would be a nightmare. But overall, I mean, we've made reference to it as the devs have joined us on this show many times or provided us help when we need something and stuff like that. It's one of the things that has always struck me as very unique about Bethesda / ZeniMax as a whole is, and this kind of goes to that, they're much more involved with a lot of the people who enjoy their games and are part of their community than is normal, I guess I would say. Like it's kind of uncommon how much they kind of interact with all of us as a whole for various things. So it's interesting to hear that even all the way back with something like that. It's not a new thing. It kind of seems like they had their finger on like, oh, this is a very helpful site. We should note this type of deal.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm pretty sure that was like after like in the Daggerfall time or Redguard, in that time period. I don't know. I don't exactly remember when. I know I had emails with Todd Howard and Chris Weaver from those guys. Not a lot, just
sure, off and on.
A while back and forth. So I mean, they were definitely aware of me, of the USP from post Daggerfall times. So
yeah, because I was going to say that'd be around the time that Todd Howard was probably getting started, as opposed to the bulk of it being Julian LaFay, I believe is how you pronounce it, type of deal. So it's like that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess like it goes to, it's one of my favorite quotes in the game industry is from Todd Howard. I don't remember it exactly. I used to memorize it. I think it was during either a game developers conference or one of the like E3 type conferences, but the main part is among the long sentence, he says, make the player proud that he bought it. So, I mean, that's what Bethesda does. Like, you really feel part of it and actually feel proud to be a part of it, even though you are the consumer and you pay money for it.
Yeah,
but it definitely doesn't feel like that type of a relationship when it comes to Bethesda and ZeniMax as a whole. So it's just, to me, it adds to what you said, Lotus, with their involvement with the community. Yeah.
I guess
So
I mean I'm not really involved in any other game community, so I have nothing to base it on, right? So it's just what happens
yeah, you're just
in my
used
life
to
sort of
see,
thing.
and that's funny you say that because like I oftentimes reference the fact that like when I was involved with other games, like I went from like sports to okay, I can't really play sports as much, well, at least competitively type of thing. So it's like okay, what's something else I can kind of do competitively? So I got into gaming and stuff like that, and I've made jokes about like some of the worst things I've been messaged in ESO in competitions, it's like in Cyrodiil or something like that, is oftentimes nicer than a compliment I've gotten in like a competitive shooter. So I'm like, it's a very different atmosphere. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of issues to be had with, a big community, because this community, when you encompass more than just Elder Scrolls Online, you have like all of the games. Just Skyrim alone has like, however many millions of people that still play it daily. But like as a series as a whole, you're definitely going to have some people that don't fall into that. But like so much of the community is so nice, and then so many of the devs are so connected. It's a very different feel from anything I've personally been involved with.
Yeah, I know. I guess I haven't met too many of the the Bethesda devs, but I know the ZOS devs for ESO. I've gone to PAX East a bunch of times and chatting with them. They're great people to talk with and hear them talk about how the development in the game and just life in general is really really great.
I mean, I guess Bethesda itself at this point is so massive, and they are obviously running so many different IPs under their name. I guess they would need like several lifetimes to be as involved with their community as ZOS is with their community.
Sure. Yeah, and it's weird because it's like one of those things where like I kind of joke that it's like, oh yeah, Bethesda tends to like originally it was like, oh, I really like Elder Scrolls and Fallout, and that was Elder Scrolls was always Bethesda. Fallout got scooped in after Fallout 3 type of thing, and I was like, oh cool, this is really fun too. Originally my thought was I was like, oh, it's Elder Scrolls with guns, sweet, this is fun. But then like it's funny over the years where I've just been like, oh yeah, I really like Bethesda. Completely unrelated to anything obviously I could have any input in, but like one of my favorite shooters is Quake, and then they absorb id, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, so it's just like one of those things where it's been peculiar that series I like outside have somehow then become connected to something that I already was like, oh okay, I guess that's another thing that I like from this. So it's kind of like a weird, it just keeps happening with me.
I guess they know their target audience in a way that like most of my favorite games, completely irrelevant genres, are under Bethesda like as a whole. So they know what they are going for, I guess, is a feeling. Yeah, go ahead.
Did you, wait? First of all, did you remember the thing you meant to ask?
That was the when like the Bethesda started recognizing UESP.
Okay, I was like, tell me I'm about to derail you again. What do you call it? The next thing I kind of wanted to know is has the USB, I mean, we'd gone over the USB has been around for so long, and obviously I don't you expect to have you explain anything more, that stuff is always in the work, but given how far that the UESP has come, and you've been here since its inception, has it met what you kind of hope to get from it? Has it exceeded it? Is there more you specifically kind of hope to get out of it or make it go in a direction? Because it's like, this is now so big compared to the little project you kind of started with. Like, has its trajectory been what you expected or wanted, or is there more to it that you still hope to accomplish?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I guess in some ways, I didn't really have any expectations when I first started. Right?
That's fair.
I just something I like doing. Guys, two things I like doing. The game and creating something that people can use or find useful. Right? In terms of the website, so I didn't really have any end goal. It's just back when Daggerfall, I was just writing Daggerfall walkthroughs or Daggerfall hints or Daggerfall utilities or whatever, and I didn't really think that far, ahead. It's just, next thing comes out, okay, same thing. Yeah, right. Walkthrough
Right.
hints and just keep going. And then, of course, when the wiki, up to when the wiki, we changed to a wiki, it was all myself writing it. And then, the wiki, moving to a wiki definitely changed things, because it's not just what I want the site to be, it's what the UESP community wants the site to be. And they sort of took off with it, right? I mean, there's only so much one person can do, but when you get
Sure.
dozens of people or hundreds of people over years, it's just what the USP has become is way beyond what I ever could have guessed from the beginning, right?
That's good. That's gotta be pretty satisfying.
Yeah,
I mean, something you created took off like this, and provides so much to so many.
Yep. And it was always a hobby up to a point, and then but when Skyrim came out, the viewership went through the roof, sort of thing, and the revenue went with it. And at that point, I sort of realized, wait a minute, it's not just a hobby; it's something it could actually support me full time. And so I've been blessed enough, for 10 years to be able to work on USB full time and have it support me, which is great. So
that's really awesome. That's like really cool that it's become like, a pet project that ended up turning into something. It's like, wow, that's probably not a life direction you expected to be so helpful to you. And
well, in some ways, it's kind of good. It's full time because, to be back before Skyrim, it took a lot of my free time. I'm working a full time job, or more than full time job, and coming home and working another couple hours on the site or whenever I could. It definitely kind of overtakes your life, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And being able to do it full time, then of course, obviously, I can just do it, my 40 hours a week sort of thing, and sort of still and have my personal life on top of it, rather than so.
Yeah, that makes sense, because Ark and I joke about that all the time. It's like, man, imagine if we just did this for 40 hours a week instead of jamming okay, we need 8 hours at least we can dedicate to getting stuff done, getting stuff accomplished in game, so that we can then talk about it and stay up to dates on it and all that stuff. It's like, wow, I couldn't fathom how much more I could do if I did that 40 hours a week. It's like, oh wow, that'd be crazy. But it's weird. It's to your point, you kind of got established, then it became a thing, as opposed to you tried to make it a thing and then needed to get it established. You put in all the hard work to start with, and then it became a thing you could functionally live off of.
Yeah, it was a good 15 years or so before of it just being a hobby or side thing, and it didn't really generate. It generated enough revenue just to pay for the web server costs and that sort of thing. And I never really planned or tried to make it bigger than it was. It was just we're documenting Elder Scrolls. We have a community of people who love the game, and that was great. And then Skyrim, it just took off.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say Skyrim. I can see how Skyrim would help massively with that.
So I mean, more people playing, and more people Googling Skyrim, how to find this NBC or whatever, right? And,
right. And I, the jump between the series was, well, I wouldn't even say necessarily super popular back in the day, but it was popular-ish enough to keep getting sequels, obviously. And then the spin-offs, that didn't go quite so great, but then they had, the Morrowind, and that was the first time it went on console. I've always said that's my experience, was I played it on an Xbox because, and then, Oblivion even more so. And it was when it hit the mainstream, Skyrim has just everybody, it's such a household name. People don't even, a lot of times people are like, oh, when Skyrim 2 coming out, as opposed to when is Elder Scrolls 6 coming out. It's Skyrim in and of itself became its own entity in its entirety.
And how did Elder Scrolls Online compare for UESP to Skyrim's release? Was there a noticeable thing there?
Yeah, there actually wasn't a noticeable bump. I was kind of expecting it, but maybe because Skyrim was still so popular at the time, there's a little bump.
I can see that.
But even I haven't looked recently, but even these days, there's probably more people using Skyrim section of the site than Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh,
that honestly doesn't totally surprise me. Especially the other thing that's it's been mentioned so many times, but just the initial launch of ESO was so rocky too.
It was the best.
True, yeah.
That probably didn't help drive too much in that direction, because it was still a I don't know, and it's definitely obviously come a long way, but like actually even to Robot's point, his Skyrim videos still get more plays on YouTube than ESO. Yeah, it's like that's just it. It's like it's a different group oftentimes. I feel
I think so, yeah.
there's definitely some overlap, like people, like us, where it's like we've played all of them, so we'll play ESO, but like a decent amount of guildies literally joined because they're like, oh yeah, I just wanted to play multiplayer. And
Exactly.
so that's why I'm here. Or it's like, oh, I only play Serial because it's a fun PvP. It's like, you don't know anything else about the series. It's just this, huh? I was like, all right, fair enough.
And since we mentioned Elder Scrolls 6, I have to ask this. When do you think, like, do you have any guesses? Because I know it's just all guesses at this point for Elder Scrolls 6.
Offhand, no. So I don't have any inside information sort of thing. They're tight-lipped. Even when we try to get preview stuff and beg for concept art or screenshots or anything, or like we'll release it when we release it still. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure people have mentioned this. They're still sort of waiting ESO out, I think, a little bit.
Yes,
probably.
I'm of that mindset where I think until ESO stops growing in player base and generating so much revenue, I really don't see them wanting to. Business stuff is a focus of businesses. So I cannot see them wanting to cannibalize, at least until ESO has stagnated a bit. And it's been on the rise consistently for so long, despite any hiccups it might have and stuff like that. I think until it at least stagnates, I can't imagine they would do that, because whether people want to admit it or not, there's going to be a dip in ESO when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out. Like, even if you play both, it's going to at least split your time. There's only so much time in a day you can devote to both.
So I mean, there's no way of guessing. I mean, ESO could go another 5 years, depending on just what they do in chapters and DLCs, and
right.
PvP is looking strong in the past couple months, right? With the changes, so that could,
much to the surprise of everyone.
Yeah, I know. So I mean, that might bump it up for a couple more years, and like, who knows, right? So so I mean, we can't do much. I mean, so we're actually looking forward to Starfield now, even though it's not a Elder Scrolls game. We're hoping it will provide a little insight into what ES6 might be in terms of the computer engine and technology and data formats and stuff like that. So we've actually started a Starfield wiki,
cool.
separate from the UESP wiki, of course. But of course now that's delayed till next year. But I mean, that's no worries.
Again, it'd be better to have it land good as opposed to land and then need to deal with the bad publicity and then get it fixed and stuff like that. And just because it's they've now learned from two separate events, ESO and Fallout 76, which have formed into games that are totally worth playing and people love them. But like, had they been able to skip that opening bad publicity, I wonder how much more popular they might actually be when you have that situation removed from what actually happened.
I know. Imagine ESO released with one Tamriel,
right.
I mean,
from my perspective, I would have been there at launch instead of trying the beta that my friend had, and I was like, this is not really for me. I guess this is the first Elder Scrolls game I'm going to pass on. And then I came back, but originally at launch, I'm like, this is I don't think so.
And like to the point of Elder Scrolls 6, I always ask the question because it's fun to just see what people think about. But again, Todd Howard back in, I want to say like 2015 E3 or something, might be earlier or a little later, but he did mention that there was going to be 3 all new IPs under Bethesda. before Elder Scrolls 6 is ever become a thing.
Yeah.
So Starfield is one of them. There was another one that I don't remember, but I think we are still missing the third new IP under Bethesda. So
Yeah, it was Redfall, right? Which everyone thought was
I think
ES6.
so. Oh, that might
Maybe,
be
I don't
the yeah.
That's
Yeah,
very funny that I was going to say there's also the Indiana Jones thing that was announced and basically never talked to again or talked about again.
I forgot about that.
We're still, I assume we might actually see something at the Bethesda Xbox showcase this year.
Oh, that's June 12th, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Oof. Oh,
Looking forward to it, even if it's just a couple screens or a little bit of gameplay of ES6 or Starfield. So, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Wherever they show them, I'm there for.
We can get another Elder Scrolls screensaver where it pans across something really beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, those are really great because it opens the gate to like
oh my god, there's so much speculation.
The months of speculation, and I love that part.
The amount of people who were like speculating on the directional sun rays to determine where it was like, oh my lord! I was like, this is so in depth.
I mean, I love it though. Yeah, but I'm at this point, I'm more curious about Starfield because I just want to know what the gameplay of it is. That's it. I don't care when it comes out. It's just, what is the gameplay of it? Is it going to be like Mass Effect? Is it going to be like, I don't know, Star Citizen? I want to know that.
I know, because we haven't seen really that much, even with all of this. So it's still so unsure as to what it will be.
Yeah. I hope it becomes a thing, though.
Yeah, I'm not even a big sci-fi person, and I'm very intrigued by Starfield to see that was what got me into Fallout. I was like, oh, I just like this style of game, so I'll play this other one, and then I ended up really, really liking it. So, so I guess one other thing that I'm curious about, since you had mentioned, when we were talking about like what the series has, or what the site has kind of evolved into, is there anything, obviously if you've got any secret plans, you don't need to divulge them, but is there anything you would like to see one day from the UESP that you might not have accomplished yet? It could be pipe dream worthy, or like logistically, I would actually like to see this one day.
I mean, yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, obviously we're branching out into different games with Starfield. So
right, the Starfield thing's a great example of that. It's like you've kind of expanded the wiki into more already.
Yeah, so maybe expanding into other stuff, but we're not in any rush to do that. We want to make sure what we do is good. So
right,
we'll see how the Starfield wiki goes and go from there. Maybe we do have an Android app, but we want to get an app for like all
oh, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
All phones, or what's the Apple phones as well, or something. Or the app is just read only now, so app you can edit on, or when you get like the maps and other stuff on the app as well, instead of just on the website. We're sort of looking at it this year, but not really sure where it's going to end up with.
Sure,
but something we're sort of heading towards slowly. And there's always side things. There's the wiki, and we have like the maps and other stuff. Side projects that are turning out to be probably like the build editor sort of thing, the ESO build editor.
Yeah.
Improving that or getting similar projects like that up and running. There's always stuff to do, it seems. Or
I mean, I guess a creative mind doesn't really stop thinking about stuff to add, especially when you are this passionate about what you are doing too. So.
Yeah. I'm always thinking new stuff. It's more of a matter of, it's a good idea, but I don't have the month or two to actually do it. So it's
right, sure.
And then
the logistics become problematic.
And then maybe something comes up, and people start asking for it, or someone wants to work on it or help me with it. It's like, okay, well then it starts, comes from the back burner into into the forefront. That's
Sure.
That's sort of how projects work with the UESP. So
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Just the way we even hear about stuff added to Elder Scrolls Online, it sounds like a very similar thing. Where it's like, oh yeah, we got a team that's now devoted on something that was brought up before, but had to get pushed off because we covered this first. It's like it just seems almost like a tech way of doing things. So that makes sense.
Also, completely irrelevant, but I want to mention this for anyone who is not on video format. I see 3 banners behind you: Daggerfall Covenant, Ebonheart Pact, and the UESP banner, and I see no yellow, and that makes me happy.
The yellow's there. It's just I don't have. It's silly. The pole's not long enough to have 4 banners.
It's fine. You drop the banner that shouldn't be up there.
Yellow's too close to the UESP banner, so it's
yes, it is.
better to have the.
It's funny. Doc did the exact same thing. She put the UESP one over the AB one. It's like perfect.
This is why we love UESP. I mean, this is the only reason. I mean,
unintentional propaganda for us. What do you call it? But so here's a thing. We usually, I mean, we kind of like do this at the end, and this was something I just kind of wanted to bring up because I personally loved mine when I got it. But if people want to, let's start with, if people want to kind of be involved with the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages, what would you tell them? Like, because again, I've done minimal edits myself. Obviously, now we're kind of like joined in the podcast sphere where you guys have provided us like a bunch right out the gate type of thing for any needs we have. But yeah, if somebody's interested in contributing, or, you know, we always mention in terms of the Patreon, if people want to support the site, there's all these different things. Why don't you just from, you know, the deeper in-depth version, what would you suggest for people that are interested?
Yeah, so if you love the USP or the Elder Scrolls and want to be involved, I mean, you know, make an account on the wiki. Start editing anytime. You can, if you need help, you either post on the community portal on the wiki, or join our Discord. We have on the sidebar of the USP, we have a Discord. Join us and start chatting with us and see what needs editing. There's always small projects and large projects going on the wiki. If you just want to support the site, we do have Patreon, as you mentioned. We have all kinds of cool stuff at various tier levels, and would love people to join and see what that's about. Or if you for other stuff, you know, if you're looking like in programming stuff, you can always contact me on Discord and see what projects are available. You know, there's lots of ways to help depending on your, you know, what you want to do or your what level you want to be involved at. So yeah, and you know, I shared it on the show before. It was on my Twitter as well. But like one of the things that I because I know you were one of the ones who was working on them, and it was actually one of the first times we had chatted was the 3D sculpture of your characters for the tier of Patreon last year. Yeah. And I still, I've got mine right up on my shelf. I love that thing. And it's like, when that arrived, I was like, oh my God, the level of detail to this is like blowing my mind. Just out of curiosity, how involved was that? Because I know you had mentioned that it was a bit of a project once you got going. Yeah, it turned out to be a little more complicated. The main difficulty was getting the models to a level that could be 3D printed. So we capture models from the game, ESO or Skyrim or whatever. The problem is they may look really good, but they're not anywhere ready to be 3D printed, just in terms of how the mesh connects and joins up. And we have to, it turned out the work needed to get the mesh ready is a lot. So I actually hired someone off Fiverr. I tried doing it myself. And I'm an amateur 3D artist, but it took me like 10 to 20 hours for one model. In Blender. And that's like one model, so that's one person. So if you have, you know, a mount and pet, although pets were actually easy, but yeah, so I did just getting the model ready, and then the other challenge is shipping. You know, they turn out to be some of the tiny features are so fragile they break no matter how well you pack them. So
because I was going to say mine, I think it took me 4 minutes to get mine out of the packaging because it was so wrapped from so many angles. Because I had like the staff on my back, which I even originally was talking to you, I was like, if this is even possible, I don't know if this is a thing. And you managed to do the staff exactly like I thought.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is exactly what I envisioned. And it was like, but each one of the like parts of the Dramothra staff, which was the style that I have my character in, was like individually wrapped with paper so that it would like stay. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so involved.
Fortunately, most of them got shipped okay. Just a couple broke. We had to redo, but yeah, we'll maybe do it again in a couple years. We'll see how technology evolves. I mean,
Yes,
I was sort of thinking about this project for a long time, like 5 or 10 years.
Mhm.
But yeah, every time I looked at it, the cost is like through the roof
Right,
to
and
individually print it.
I always just thought that would be like a cool concept to have like, oh yeah, this is my character. And I mean, there's so many different little models and stuff that
Yep.
people have, but you never really get one that's customized. So that was why I was like, oh, this is so cool. Because again, as much as like Ark likes to rip on my gear, because I'm always basically in the exact same armor with my I love glass armor, but it's like that's kind of like what I just wear. It's just like on my characters. It's just like, and I've had people whisper me in game whether they like it or not. Like, oh, they're like, yeah, you can recognize me by the armor because I don't change my outfit. It's been the same since they added glass armor to the game. So
They recognize you from your armor because no one else wears that ugly armor,
Look,
man. It's
some of us are here from when glass armor was put in the game. I think I think that might be it for UESP specific stuff. Is there anything else you can think of that we specifically wanted to?
No, I mean, if I could get my head together, I probably would continue to bombard with questions, but I'll probably come up with stuff as we go. Or we'll have to just get Dave back for a second version of this.
Exactly, I'll say.
Just as we said that, yeah, he just dropped off. So.
Sorry.
no, it's okay.
I was going to say, I think we lost you briefly.
Let me, sorry, my 4-year-old pressed the computer power button. Because who doesn't like pressing a shiny button?
Amazing.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh man, that's so great.
Yeah, it's a LED button, right?
See, you wouldn't want to press it. Exactly. All right. Well, then I think we could probably move on to just maybe what we've been up to. I was going to say, I suppose we could do our break too. And
I mean, we do have a shout out that we have to do, especially with Dave here, since it's a...
I was going to say specifically our newest Patreons to the UESP.
Yeah,
yes, please.
But this week we have Rockstar Rem as the newest addition to UESP's Patreon. So thank you so much, as always. Hope you enjoyed the rewards you'll be getting and supporting both UESP and the show, which always helps.
So I happen to have this here. We're doing laser engraved maps.
I love that so much.
Yeah, for the top. Oh, yes, you have one handy. Okay, so this is for anybody on the video version.
Yep.
This
is Orcish tier, and we're doing bigger, more complicated ones for the glass and Daedric tiers. And hopefully in a week or two, we'll have some nice samples to show you.
Yeah, we'll have them on the, like...
maybe we should have that.
Bring them up on the... Oh,
the episode.
Could be a thing.
We always decide what to do for cover art. Yeah, talk people with it. I was going to say for your a Patreon check-in, because I'm a Patreon as well, even though I work with you. It was before any of that happened. I've loved the updates you've given on how they look. Kind of as you. Yeah, I test them out and design how this goes, because it's a lot of work in progress to figure this stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we sort of have an idea, especially for the bigger projects, the Glass and Daedric tier. Sort of have an idea of what we want, and then sort of work our way to them in terms of what they'll end up. And it's been a lot of fun so far, and excited to see the finished project.
Yeah.
I mean, they just a lot of things so far they look so good. I mean, it's from, I don't know who's doing the designs and everything like that, but if that's an individual thing or if there's a group of people working on it or not, but they are just I love the
Yeah,
visual
it's mainly
aesthetic
me,
of UESP.
so thank you. But yeah,
Well, we don't have any iTunes reviews or anything else to add, so we are gonna have our quick break, which I'll take a moment to cough because I've been holding it back for a while, and I will be back with our tales in a bit. So see you all then. So we are back with the fan favorite section of the show, which is Tales of Tamriel, as the name suggests. And as we have the special guest here, Dave, why don't we start with you? What we normally do is we talk about what we have been doing in the last week between the shows in Elder Scrolls in general. But since you run UESP and this is your first time on the show, you can talk about anything that has been of note, whether it's related to UESP or the games you've been playing. What have you been up to?
yeah. So unfortunately, I don't play Elder Scrolls games much. I mean, even ESO. Most of the time when I'm playing ESO, I'm actually working either. I'm developing an add-on or programming or getting some data or
it's funny. I
doing whatever.
figured that would probably be the case oftentimes when your work is the game. It's kind of goes hand in hand, which I would assume kind of turns it a little bit off of a relaxing side hobby into okay, well now this is a little more like being able to play without the business mindset. I would imagine would be kind of complicated, honestly.
Yeah. I kind of there's stuff in ESO I want to do. It's just a matter of you get burned out in terms of you're doing Elder Scrolls stuff all day and playing the game on and off. So you want to do something else or get away from the computer right at nighttime. So I mean, outside of the game, I've been doing the maps this week. So this is the glass level. This is a really quick one, but it's turning out really really good. So this will get a background of I have some poster printed water background, water behind it, and put it in a frame, and try to glue some of the islands back on. Assuming I can find them all and make sure they're the right place. But yeah, just as a test, it turned out really good. So
yeah, I was gonna say for that looks really cool. Like the just the wood aesthetic type of thing looks really really nice.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm doing this week. And some of the smaller maps is testing various, maps and settings and stuff, trying to get that nailed down. So
yeah, I'll be very curious at the end of the year when these get shipped out, how they end up coming out. Because so far, any of the tier rewards I've ever seen, I mean, you're even drinking out of this might be Suma mug type of thing, which Doc has had on the show as well. Mine's actually behind me. I haven't drank out of mine yet. It's actually, I think, holding a plush. But that's just it. The quality of those things is very, very creative. I like them a lot. So.
Yeah, well, thank you. We put a lot of effort into doing something unique and something that won't get us in trouble in terms of copyright with Bethesda. So, it's a fine line, but so far, no legal notice or cease and desist.
Cease and desist.
I mean, Bethesda in general, from everything I've seen so far, is again a lot more involved with the amount of things they allow for their community to work on. Yeah, I mean, our name literally is Tales of Tamriel.
That's true.
Yeah, the funniest part is if you Google the show. Well, actually, now there's the third one because the
Instagram account.
Well, there's somebody else for the Instagram account that's actually not ours. But then you'll get you would get one of two things. You would get our show, or you would get the officially printed books,
which I have
behind me. I've got them behind me as well, and it's like. We're not named after the books. We actually existed before they printed those books, but then it's Tales of Tamriel. I was like, oh, that's awkward. And then, which we still like to joke, when there's Tales of Tribute, the card game coming with High Isle, the joke being when they were doing the discussing how it works, and Gina slipped up and said Tales of Tamriel. She's like, oops. Yeah. She's like, well, there's a plug for the podcast, but I actually mean Tales of Tribute. I'm like, yep. So if you just look up TOT, as a side effect, you kind of get us as well.
Mhm.
So it kind of like all syncs together. It's very amusing how that actually works. But what
It's
have
gonna
you been
happen
up to?
so
Have
much.
you had any time to play Ark, or are you still MIA?
I haven't played literally anything in a while. It's
Rip.
I work and then I come home and then I work on my own game, and in between that there is the social stuff that you end up like the wedding or other
Yeah, I was gonna say you had a
stuff
wedding,
that
so
yeah that I had to do.
exactly.
So yeah, it's absolutely zero game time
Yeah.
for a while. So
Well, hopefully soon enough you'll be
tales.
able to dive back in
Yeah,
a
I
little
mean,
bit.
at this point, I gave up. I'm just waiting for High Isle,
I was gonna
and
say,
I'll just
High
get
Isle's
as
right
much
around the
done as I can until High Isle, so I can jump
Yep.
in with High Isle.
Right. See,
So-
and that's what we'll get the extra streams on this channel. You can just stream High Isle a whole bunch.
I mean, I've had the PTS stream set up for like 3 weeks now to stream on this channel. It's been just set up. It's there.
It's just waiting.
Yeah, I haven't logged in though, so I
That's
don't have any details.
So I've done a few things. I've actually been incredibly busy with work and all of that. So I'll actually I'll end up being away next week. I'm heading out on a vacation, so I'll kind of be MIA. We'll have to figure out if we can do something next week or if we might need to postpone and just either do a weird day or do some type of fill-in type of thing. But even still, I've done a few things in game as I try to close in on anything I'm trying to get done before High Isle drops personally. My goal when High Isle drops is actually to hit 50,000 total achievement points. Which is, I forget the exact number, but that's some currently not including High Isle. There's like 50,100. So it's like
I was gonna say that's a 100%. I mean,
yeah. Well, that
almost.
would be if I had it now. I'm accounting for a little leeway for when High Isle drops type of thing. So like that's just it. I'm around 1,000 away. So I'm not at 100%, but I'm definitely in the high 90 percentages of completion. But yeah, so I've been kind of organizing because I guess you could kind of joke that this is a little bit obsessive, but you know, it is what it is. It's the stuff I do find fun. I am planning it out so that I can hit exactly the number 50,000. Like not 50,005. That will drive me insane. Like I need to hit the exact number. So I can't just willy-nilly grab whatever I want either. So I've kind of been working on a structure for that because I don't know, this is what I do for entertainment. But that aside, I wanted to just bring up a ridiculous thing that we encountered in our weekly prog. We're basically on the cusp of getting Unchained, which is the Black Rose Prison Perfecta. And we only run once a week. So, you know, it's if we don't get it one week, it's like, oh, okay, well, we don't really have time to group until the following one. But the issue we ran into was this week we actually didn't get to practice, which was a huge downer because for whatever reason, and it seemed completely isolated to the four of us in this one Black Rose prison instance where it just there was some. We just had internet issues left and right. Not even all the same people. Like I didn't, which is weird because I'm very persnickety when it comes to internet. Like if I get any lag, I get really irritated. But like we were having people DC. We actually have a really funny video. I should check to see if he wouldn't mind me posting it that people might get a laugh out of. Our sorcerer he dropped from chat and we were like, oh no, like Bill's getting DC'd. And the boss on the first area pops up and she's in his character model. They're just on top of each other. And we're like, oh, he's totally done for. And then all of a sudden he just teleports like 9 feet to her side and starts light attacking. And I'm like, what? Okay, I guess Bill's still there. Maybe he just got dropped from chat. And then he goes from light attacking to just kind of like bouncing back and forth, doing like this weird like block spell thing. And I was like, so is Bill here or is his thing just like freaking out? And then for anybody who hasn't done Black Rose Prison, one of the mechanics is she will drop meteors on everybody, followed by this flame spout pinwheel thing that you need to avoid. Well, Bill doesn't avoid any of those. Like, the meteors slam on him, he doesn't die. And our healer's freaking out. She's like, I don't know whether to heal him or not. Is he even there? And the part that really like had us laughing was when the fire pinwheels start, he just doesn't move at all. Like, it's just going through him, and it's like his health bar's bouncing all over the place, but he's not dying. So we have absolutely no clue what is exactly going on during all of this. And we managed to actually beat the boss through all of this, which was pretty funny. But then, like, as we tried to walk through the gate to the next arena, it actually did drop him entirely. And we just fought stuff like that all night long. So unfortunately, we just called the run because we had 3 separate instances where nobody had died and somebody disconnected. And we're like, okay, this is because we were like, if we get to Arena 5 and we're at the finale and somebody disconnects and that's why we don't get our Unchained, I was like, nah, I don't have it in me for that type of thing. Like, that will be way too heart-wrenching. I'd rather just not do it. Like, so yeah, I don't really know what was going on with all of that, but it was very, very strange. And then the only other thing which I had mentioned that I had gotten into was I've been playing a lot of Battlegrounds recently, just now that we've got all the modes back and it's not just Team Deathmatch 24/7. And there are, I mean, I'm no Battlegrounds expert, but they might want to go over Battlegrounds with a bit of a cleanup brush, I guess, because I had mentioned one where I got the Chaos Ball and I took 0 damage from it. Well, there is, I actually really wish I had written down the name. I don't know the name of the map itself, but I actually issued a bug report on it. I'm assuming this is like, if you play Battlegrounds a lot, this is probably a somewhat known thing, but you can just like go through these like wooden planks and just basically be out of bounds.
Oh.
And other people can get out there too. And it just turns into this giant mess of like everybody in the beat. So like if there's a Chaos Ball or something like that, they just run it out of bounds in this area. And it just turns into this mess of people jamming into this like out of bounds rafter thing. And I spent an entire battleground where nobody ever played anywhere but that. Like, and it basically went to score cap because nobody could hold on to it because everybody just started dropping AoEs on the out of bounds area. But I had it for a while and I basically was just jabbing as fast as the game would allow me because I could regenerate that way. But it was, I guess maybe I've just never bumped into that, but it was an interesting situation, but I don't think that is intentional. It did not seem like a part of the map that you were intended to fight in. But otherwise, I've actually been having a pretty fun time with some of the Battlegrounds matches just because, I don't know, I like having the option of modes. And since they implied that there might be some more stuff coming this year, like maybe PvP events, I'm curious if they might do something with Battlegrounds, like maybe an event-based thing, like, oh, you know, whatever the case, you know, there's 2 Chaos Balls or something like that, whatever the case. Like, I'm just curious to see if, you know, they might do more on that, like they had mentioned, because after the Zeal of Zenithar event, I believe Meteor Mayhem or White Strikes Mayhem will be the next event, because that usually drops in July.
Honestly, I've been dying for a 2-way PvP in ESO for so long. I mean, I understand that the concept of the game is 3 factions,
right?
But that doesn't mean we can't have 6 versus 6 PvP
in like a
in the
closed environment. Sure,
yeah, like Battlegrounds, but with 2 teams instead of 3, because that always annoyed me, because one team could just be sabotaging you, and the other neither of you
happens
wins.
More than you think.
Yeah, neither of you wins.
It's a battle to not lose as opposed to a battle to win.
So 2-way battle is what I'm looking for. But what I wanted to ask, so you always mentioned while everyone was having performance issues in Cyrodiil, you were having performance issues in Battlegrounds. Did that change as well with this, or have you tried it on PCNA?
Nah, it's super broken. I never lag more than when I play Battlegrounds. I don't know what the deal is.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have the most lag when I play Battlegrounds personally, and this is from the PlayStation 5 side of things or the PlayStation Network side of things. But and I've tried to say maybe I just notice it more because it's a smaller, more competitive environment, so I care more. But like compared to dungeons and stuff like that, there'll be weird stuff that happens because it's an online, always connected game, and there's millions of players. Like I get it. Like I don't expect it to be flawless all the time, but I definitely run into the most bizarre things in Battlegrounds. It seems like the one thing, since now there's shared achievements, which I love. I can build a cheesy build, which lets me get out of trouble for not being very good a lot easier on a Templar than I can on like a Dragon Knight. So I think that's why I maybe have been enjoying it more. When somebody grabs like a relic, I can bomb them really, really fast and nuke them off a lot quicker than I could with a Dragon Knight. I wasn't as good at it, type of thing. So I've been having more fun that way. But yeah, I don't know. It's just it's definitely, I have fun with it in spite of itself. Performance is better for me in Cyrodiil or otherwise. So yeah, I don't know. Not game breaking. It's just noticeable, I guess I would say.
So you mentioned you want to like get to exactly 50,000 achievement points, and you are working towards that, right?
Yeah.
So Dave, completely unrelated to that desire of Lotus, do you think once Lotus reaches to 50,000 achievement points, do you think on UESP we could change one of the achievements points from 5 to 10 and then trick Zaz into that being the actual amount, and there must be a bug in the system because, you know, UESP documentation is better, and get Lotus to have
49,995.
Or 5005, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
basically just tricks us into changing it based on UESP data.
We could look into that. I'm not sure they're looking at UESP for that information.
But we can convince them. We'll find a way.
But what do you call it? But yeah, that's pretty much been it for me. I guess the only other thing is, one thing I will just kind of say, I've got a small version of it. This is more based on just like the thing that I'm very impressed with Nephis starting up is this initiative to get more people involved in learning trials and having trial teams that they get along with and not having a toxic environment and stuff like that. It's called Project Vitality, which you can go over to the ESOU Discord, which if you've ever been interested in getting into trials and stuff like that, all platforms are supported by this. It's Nephis and many people trying to do this to kind of let people get their feet wet with this type of content that a lot of people don't experience. And it's whether you like challenges or lore or any of this stuff, it can be really interesting for people because I still say, like, I love the story to the Maw of Lorcage. And so few people have experienced it. So like, if this is something that you might have interest in, it's a really great project that looks like it's starting up. And the idea is to be this, you know, helping environment that doesn't put all this extra stress on you until you want to, if you ever want to push for like speed runs and stuff like that. And just as a kind of inspiration from that, we've got a small little group. Unfortunately, I only really run this on PlayStation, but we've got our own little achievement team that we kind of started up, and we're doing base trial achievement stuff like that. So if you do play on PlayStation and that's something that you might have interest, feel free to hit me up. Lotus of Doom, basically anywhere. I'm kind of spearheading it with, what do you call it? My friend Kate, who is, one of the healers from many trials guilds that I've been in. But yeah, if that's something we're looking for, no drama. It's like you're here to play and like accomplish something and learn something is the goal. If you want it done in one pull, this is not going to be the place for you. I do, the idea is to actually improve and get something done. So unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily always mean you're going to do it in one poll. Sometimes you got to be creative with the stuff, and that's kind of what I was hoping for with forming this little group. So that's pretty much the extent of all I've been up to.
Yeah, still more than us. And for
I
anyone
don't
who
know.
doesn't
I think what Dave does is a little more involved than any of us.
Well, I mean, yeah, on the grand scheme of Elder Scrolls in general.
Exactly.
Probably more than a lot of us ever in total did, but
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know, by the way, ESOU is ESO University. So if you Google, all their links and whatnot should come up.
Yep.
ESOU on itself might not pop up. I don't know how it's indexed.
Oh, gotcha. That's probably a good thing to know.
Yeah, so
that's a good
ESO
thing to know. Thank
University,
you. Gotcha.
And I guess that brings us towards the end of the show. Dave, thank you so very much for joining us. It's been a blast.
It's been great talking with you guys and reminiscing
I
about the past.
appreciate it.
We would love to have you back again.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure working with you too. So
yes.
So do you have any final thoughts? Anything you want to mention where people can find you? Obviously, UESP being one of them. Basically, this is the part for you.
No, yeah, obviously, join us on the wiki, on Discord. We talk about lots of stuff site-wise and Elder Scrolls-wise, and if you want to get involved more, that's a great place to meet fans of Elder Scrolls and UESP alike. So, yeah, we welcome all kinds, and be excited to talk with you.
Yeah, and again, if anyone somehow hasn't checked UESP while being aware of this show, you are missing out on a lot.
Yeah, I don't even know how that's possible.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I really don't think it's a possibility, but I don't know. You never know. What about you, Lotus?
So, like I said, if that guild thing seems like something of interest, definitely hit me up. Otherwise, I'm pretty easy to find. I'm just Lotus of Doom, pretty much anywhere that there's in-game, on Twitter, on Twitch, on Discord. Pretty easy to find me whenever you need to get a hold of me.
There you go. And I'm reachable anywhere that is Arcanier, ARKHANIIR. I haven't really streamed or done anything of that regard in a while, but I'm mostly on Twitter and on our Discord, so you can reach me out on those places. As for everything else we do, you can follow all those over at talesoftamrielpodcast.com, which might go down at some point for a bit because I'm changing hosting services. You can find links to all of our social media as well as our content. You can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/UESP if you want to help support the show and earn awesome Elder Scrolls themed rewards that we talked about. And if you're on audio format, you didn't see, but do check the Patreon and the Twitter accounts for the visuals of those. They are really cool. You can also consider leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes so people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words, and sometimes it matters. Thank you all so very much for joining us on this episode of Tales of Tamriel, and we will see you all next week. Have a great night, everybody.
See you later.
When Akatosh slew Lorcan, he ripped his heart right out. He hurled it across Tamriel, and the heart was heard to shout, red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. The laughing heart sprayed blood afar, a gout on Seer it fell, and like a dart shot to its mark down in an alien well. Magicka fused the Lorcan blood to crystal red and strong. Then wild elves cut and polished it down to Chimel at a ball. Red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. When elves lost Nirn to men, Akatosh gave the stone to Saint Alesh in token of her right to sit the throne. Red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. Red diamond, protect us till the end.